Ahlan wa sahlan مرة ثانية. Welcome again. Now you have just finished your exciting study of measure 3, and I know you're excited to see what comes next, and that of course is... Aha, we fooled you, didn't we? Okay, we're going to skip over measure 4 for the time being and go directly to measure 5, and hopefully when you see this lesson you will understand why we go in that order. Okay, but for the time being we're going to go over measure 5. Here's our goal. As always, you should be used to this by now. Notice, today we're going to learn all the patterns of measure 5. Don't worry, it's going to be easy, like we always tell you. If you learned the things that have gone before, this will be a breeze for you, and you're going to see that. Okay, so let's continue right on with measure 5. Now, to understand measure 5, we're going to ask you to think back to measure 2, because there is a very strong relationship between 2 and 5. And just a little preview for next time, there is also the same relationship between 3 and 6. So what we're going to do with 2 today, we're going to do the same thing with measure 3 when we get to 6. So this means if you learned measure 2 well, like you should have, this will be very easy. But let's review. Of course, as you're sick of hearing by now, measure 1 are 3 basic root letters. This is your basic meaning. Measure 2, of course, I mean, you could do this by now, right? You got a shadda here, which makes it causative, right? To cause whatever the basic meaning is. All right, well, measure 5. All we're going to do is add a ta to the front of measure 2. Now, you remember way back at the beginning, we told you that ta is one of those frequent add-ons. Well, now you're going to see one of the reasons why. You also saw that in the measure 2 masdar. This is another case where we add ta onto the front of something. So this is one reason why it's an add-on. And just a little hint, you're going to see ta again next lesson. Okay, so that's the form. Just put a ta in front of measure 2. Now, what is the meaning? Well, the meaning of measure 5 basically is reflexive. Yeah, you're saying, what on earth is reflexive mean? Well, think of reflexive as meaning to perform the causative on yourself. Saying that still doesn't help me very much. Well, it makes a lot more sense when we give you an example. So, here's a familiar word, غير. You're familiar with this in like غير meaning not, or different, or other than. غير, measure 1, is to be different. The verb form, غير, to be different. That's why it's like, we get meaning not and so forth. Okay, that's measure 1. The measure 1 verb isn't used very much, but I can you already know. What's the measure 2 going to be? Well, we're just going to put this shadda here. غير is going to be measure 2. If 1 is to be different, 2 is to make different, or in English we call this to change. So غير means to change. But notice how the word to change does not look anything like this or like this, right? It's great. I mean, if you were learning English, you would just have to learn this, memorize this word. There's another flashcard for you. No. In Arabic, غير, to make something different, is to make it different. Okay, now, you're going to even love this even more. Okay, غير means to change. But measure 2, remember, is causative, is to cause something else to be whatever measure 1 is. So غير means to change something else. Right? We always want to change other people and other things. So غير is to change something. Now, if you go back to what we said about reflexive, it's to perform the causative on yourself. Now you can easily guess what the measure 5 is going to be. تغير is to change yourself. Okay? What's the difference here, right? It's the difference between changing a light bulb, that's measure 2, right? Or changing yourself, right? Okay, Bruce Banner, changing into the Hulk, transforming, we might say. But notice the word transform doesn't look anything like change. Notice now, this, you just have to love this. We just have to bring this up. Okay, so we have these three words. In Arabic, they are very clearly related. I mean, if you knew one, you can automatically figure out the other two. غير, to be different. غير, to change. And تغير, to change self. But notice in English, okay, this one looks nothing like the other two, and these two are the same word even though they have two completely different meanings. Well, I mean, maybe not completely different, but they are definitely different meanings. Okay, so this is like in English, you're just memorizing a lot of stuff. In Arabic, it's systematic and logical, and everybody is happy. You're saying this is such a breeze. Let's move on. Okay, so we want to talk a little bit about conjugation, and conjugation is going to get even simpler. Oh, you're saying how I love measure 5. It is so simple. Okay, conjugation, all the verb forms, just they're all fatas. Feta, of course, being this short vowel, a. Everything, straight across. Past tense, present tense, all fatas. Now, notice there are no sukoons anywhere in here. So, remember in the measure 1, we had 2 syllables. Yaktab, yashrab, right? Yadrus. Remember? Okay, in the previous measure 2 and 3, we had how many? 3 syllables. Yudaris, yushahid. Now, notice how many syllables we have in this case. Yatafa'al. Alright, and of course the ending. Okay. Alright, yatafa'al. Right, there are 4 syllables, and they're all fetas. Yatafa'al, atafa'al, natafa'al, yatafa'alun. In the past tense, tafa'ala. Notice this one has, right, tafa'ala. Okay, this one has 4 syllables. Tafa'ala, tafa'alat, tafa'altu. So this ta, what we're saying is this ta becomes part of the word. It's always there. Great. Now, I know what you're saying. I want to see some examples. Okay, so here we have an example of a very simple sentence. Blank a tux. So, think about it. A tux, of course, is the weather. Is the weather يغير or يتغير? يغير or يتغير? Okay, the weather is changing. Which one? Well, of course, it's this one. يغير would mean somebody else is changing the weather. Now, of course, we know the CIA does that, but we're not supposed to talk about it. So we say that the weather changes itself, right? يتغير. يتغير الطقس. Okay, so this is a pretty straightforward relationship here. Now, I know what you're asking yourself. But how do I form the masdar of this one? Well, you're going to love this. This is so simple. Okay, our verb, tafa'ala, there's our verb. The masdar is just this. You say, my goodness, that looks just like the verb. Now, in fact, when it's written without vowels, it will be exactly the same as the verb. So context will tell you. Notice we did change this one letter to an U from an A. So instead of tafa'al, tafa'ul. That's a very minor change in pronunciation. Many times you're not going to be able to hear it, and it's not going to be written. So, in terms of writing, we would say the masdar is exactly the same as the verb. Of course, the masdar does not conjugate. Let's see an example. Taghayyara, as we said, is to change something. Ooh, here's a sentence. عندما رجعت إلى بيروت شهدت تغيرات كثيرة. Okay? When I returned to Beirut, شهدت, I witnessed, I saw what? تغيرات. Well, it's a plural, so we know it's a noun. تغير is a change. تغيرات, changes. And again, this takes the simple feminine plural form. And how many changes? كثيرة. It's non-human plural, so it's كثيرة. عندما رجعت إلى بيروت شهدت تغيرات كثيرة. Now, if you learned this word, then you could automatically make the verb form from that, assuming you didn't know it. Now, you're saying that's great, but I want more examples. Of course, that's what you're saying. Okay, so here's an example. We're going to take this through all the forms. Okay, قدم. قدم means to go before, to go ahead, to go first, to be forward. It's often used like to be bold, to be forward. The verb form is not used that much, but you definitely have seen like قادم meaning upcoming, الأسبوع القادم, the coming week, and so forth. Okay, that's no problem. Okay, so if this is our basic measure 1, I'm going to ask you, what will the measure 2 be? Okay, how will we form it? Right, easy enough. What will it mean? Exactly. Okay, so we're going to put a shadda here. قدم becomes قدم, قدم. And if this is to be forward, to go forward, to be ahead, so forth, then what is this one? It means to put something else forward or to advance something, like to advance an idea, to advance a proposal, to advance a suggestion. Okay, no problem. Now I'm going to ask you, what would the measure 5 be? How will we form it? Exactly. Okay, and what will it mean? All right. So measure 5, we're just going to put a ta in there. Taqadama. And what's it going to mean? To advance yourself. Right? To advance. So we can say like al-iqtisad al-Masri yattaqaddam. The Egyptian economy is advancing. It's progressing. And this is a very common form. But the point is, you could have, if we gave you any one of these words, you could figure out the others. If you just knew this word, which is a lot more common than the other two, you could figure out what these two meant. If this is to advance yourself, this must be to advance somebody else. And if advance means to put them forward, this must mean to be forward. Isn't this great? Because again, I'm going to ask you, look at the English words. Explain to me the relation between these words. Okay, so now if this is the verb taqaddama, I want to know what is the masdar for advancement. Of course, by now you wouldn't even think about looking this up in your dictionary. You'll just substitute in the vowels, and we get, of course, taqaddum. Taqaddum. Right? This is a very common word. Taqaddum. Advancement. Okay, now I know what you're thinking. Wow, that's fun, but how do I form the active participle? This is going to be an absolute breeze. So, if you remember, this is taken right out of our lesson on measure 2. And remember, we said learn these patterns because all we're going to do is stick the rest of the measures into these. Well, that's exactly what we're going to do. So if you did learn that, like we said, measure 5 is just simply sticking this root, the tafa'al root, into all these patterns. And it's pretty simple. So all we did was stick a mu in front of these words, and we got all of these. So the verb yatafa'al, okay, active participle mutafa'il, passive mutafa'al, the place noun is the same thing. Remember, this is done and this is the doer. And again, they're going to be spelled exactly alike without the vowels. So it's very simple. If you took our advice and learned this rule about attaching the mu in the front, then you're good to go. You breeze through measure 3, you breeze through measure 5. Guess what? Measure 6 is going to work the same way, so are 7, 8, 9, and 10. And we're not even going to do 9. Okay, so let's go back to this one. Taqaddum is to advance yourself. So I want to know what would be the passive participle to be advanced, or just advanced. Right. Well, go back to our pattern. All we're doing is sticking a mu in front of this. So, mutaqaddam is advanced. Now, again, in writing, you're not going to be able to tell the difference between advanced and one who advances. But depending on the root, certain words are going to be much more common. So, we point this out because this word, mutaqaddam, advanced, is definitely the most common form from this particular root. You're going to see mutaqaddam a lot more commonly than yataqaddam or taqaddam. Mutaqaddam, we talk about, right? Technologia mutaqaddama and so forth. Okay, everything right, mutaqaddam. Now, here's another one. Here's another measure 5, takallama, and again, the reason it's a 5 is not going to be quite obvious, but this is maybe one of the first ones you learn. Takallama is to speak. We won't go into how that's derived, but just trust me. Takallama is to speak. So I want to know, what is a speaker? Like Speaker of the House, the Speaker of the government, the spokesman for the White House. Okay, well, first of all, what kind of word is speaker? Exactly, it's an active participle. How do we form the active participle? Well, just like all the others, we stick a mu in front, and it happens to have a kesra on it. So, mutakallim, like mutakallim Beit al-Abyad, right? The Speaker of the White House. Again, common word. Mutakallam, spoken, is not used as much. Alright, so we are almost done. Before we send you on the way and show you an adorable doggy picture, we want to put all this together, because I know you're raring to practice. So, I have here 3 words. Don't write these down yet, because they're in the wrong order. So I have 3 Arabic words, I have 3 English words. They are jumbled up. I want to know which ones match with which. So take a moment to look at these. We're going to figure out which one goes where. Now, this should be pretty straightforward. Now, these are all verbs, of course. So let's look. Which one of these, now the Arabic is easy, right? We have here, this is a measure, obviously it's a 1. This is a 2. This is a 5. And we know the relationship between them. So which one of these is the most basic meaning? Exactly. Allama is to know. Now you're saying arafa is to know as well. They both mean to know. Alama means more like to know something in sense of a scholarly sense, to understand something. Okay, if this is to know, this is measure 2. Which one is this going to go with? Measure 2 is what? Means causative. Which one of these means to cause someone to know? Well, hopefully, if it's successful, teaching should be that, right? So, allama is to teach. Now, let's see. Can you guess what the last one is? Well, of course, you can figure it out by elimination. But you should know, if this is to cause someone to know, then the last one, measure 5, is to perform it on yourself. So, who really causes you to know something? Right? This is to learn. Okay? See the relationship? Now, the thing is, I mean, these, you can figure them out. In English, they look nothing alike. They're not related at all by root. You just have to memorize them. But here, you can sort of figure out the pattern. They say, this is great. Let's keep going. I know that's what you're saying, so we'll do it. Okay, I have 3 more words. Again, all from the same root. And they're jumbled here, so we want to know which ones go with these. Again, they don't look a whole lot alike on the English side. In the Arabic side, they form a very logical pattern. So let's just go down the list, right? Okay, this one, muta'allam. Okay, it's obviously, it's which measure? Well, because of the ta, tells us it's measure 5. What did measure 5 mean? Measure 5 meant to learn. Okay, so this has to do with learning. Is it learning, learner, or teacher? Well, it's the pattern of what? It's a pattern of an, right, it's a participle, it's an active participle. So muta'allam is an apprentice or a learner. It's not exactly a student person. It's more of a learner than a student. Okay, muta'allam. Okay, next one. Mu'allim. You probably already know this word, but mu'allim. Well, again, what's the root? I mean, not the root. What's the measure? Well, it's measure 2. Measure 2 was, again, to teach. I know you're saying, okay, I know it. I know that. Mu'allam. And what pattern is this? Mu'allam. Mu'allam. It's a active participle, a doer of teaching. Hopefully, should be teacher. Okay, and of course the last one is obvious. But notice ta'allum. Ta'allum is what pattern? It's a masdar of measure 5. So learning. Wow, you're saying this is, we can't stop. This is so great. Okay, again, all these words from the same root, still all from the same root, from patterns you know. And again, we have 3 English words that look nothing alike because they're all from different roots. 3 words. If you had never seen any of these words, at least you would guess they're from the same root, and you would have some idea what the meaning is, but in this case, you know what they all mean. So let's go through them. This one, ta'aleem. Oh, you're saying to yourself, that is that pattern that you told us to remember, burn into our minds, because it is distinct and unique. Ta'aleem is the what? Exactly, the M2M. This is the measure 2 masdar. Measure 2 was yet again. Right? Measure 2 was to teach. So this one, measure 2 masdar, the doing of that is, of course, teaching. Okay, let's go down to the next one. Alim. This is an earlier pattern. Ooh, well, you know it's measure 1 because it's got nothing added, really to it. Alim. Remember alim 1? This is a what? Think of katib, right? Talib, and so forth. This is a measure 1 active participle, meaning the doer, one who does knowing, is, alright, it's that. And of course the last one, even, let's assume, even if this wasn't the last one, this is what? Passive participle of measure 1. Ma'lum means the done. Done node would be known. This is one example. We just took one root, and you see all these patterns we can get from it. And this is where we're leveraging our knowledge of roots and patterns. Meaning, if you know these patterns, you plug this root in, you figure out all these words instead of making a whole bunch of flashcards. Because you have much more valuable things to do with your time. So, on behalf of my good friend Alexis here, I want to wish you the best. Shukran, masalama.